I am Supreme, and today's Astro Oracle investigation will be on Ella Goodie. Okay, Ella Goodie is a mother of two who was 32 years old when she went missing March 9th, 2022. Okay, she was a Lyft driver. And according to Ella and her family, that day she had a passenger that needed to go to Texas from Scotts, Louisiana, which is where Ella Goodie is from, which is where she was living. Okay, this would have been a 3 hour ride. Okay, the last time her family heard of her was when she told her two kids to get ready. So when she comes back, she will be able to take them to school. Okay, now I took a lot of notes, okay, and I looked at a lot of documentaries, okay, and I pulled birth alignments where the planets were for the day Ella Goodie was born and the day she was last seen. Okay, and I looked up the planets, and I'm going to be talking about the planetary alignments and how they manifest specific stories of how this missing person case came about. Okay, but before we get to that, I'm going to go down this timeline of events based on what I saw in these documentaries. Okay, because that is me tuning into Ella's energy. I'm full of her energy. Like, I have been tuning into her since last night. Okay, today is July the 17th, 2025. Ella has still not been found. Okay, now, according to uh, Ella's family, okay, she was doing Lyft also outside of the app. So she developed relationships with her passengers that carried on even after the ride was over, to where some of these passengers were able to call her even when she wasn't working for Lyft to take them here, take them there. You know, she had that type of relationship with them, which was her business. Okay. So it was said that this particular day, okay, and I'm quite sure it was confirmed because I don't think Lyft became a part of that investigation, because they would have had a lot more information on her whereabouts, you know, but obviously they didn't, or her earnings. So I don't think she was on the app. And it was also said that this was one of the people that she previously knew. So her and this individual, whose name is Brandon Francisco, they have a rapport together. We're going to get to Brandon Francisco. But first, let's talk about where the ride started. The ride started in Scotts, Louisiana, okay, on March 9th, 2022. Okay, now she was supposed to be driving Brandon her to Texas. She's from Lafayette, Louisiana, but she was living in Scotts, Louisiana. Okay, uh, just a little history on Ella. Her mom was disabled, so Ella grew up very early. You know, I'm quite sure she was very mature for her age. You know, because she had to be to take responsibility to help her mom. Okay, so um, from Scott, Louisiana to Houston, it was a 3 hour and 28 minute ride. Okay. Now, the police reviewed their surveillance during the investigation. Okay. So they located Ella's black 2012 Audi Q5 traveling to Texas, like she said, and like the family said, on March 9th, 2022. Okay. Now, 12 hours later, I want to make sure my beard is not hitting this mic. Now, 12 hours later, okay, she was spotted in that Audi driving back to Louisiana, but she never arrived. Now, the next day, which would have been March 10th, she was spotted back in Texas driving toward Dallas. Now, Brandon Francisco was the passenger that was last known to be with her. Okay? He was set to show up in court the day of the ride. Okay? This was a warrant for him to appear for attempted murder and multiple other charges. Okay? He already did jail time previously for statutory rape. So could you imagine who Ella had in her vehicle? Let's talk about it. Now, fast forward to March 25th, 2022. Ella still, no sign of Ella, right? Brandon was found and arrested by police in St. Joseph, Missouri. Okay, you know, that's kind of good, right? Because he was the last one seen with her. So at least now they have some type of answers that they can get out of him, right? So what's so special about him being found in St. Joseph, Missouri, other than he was the last person seen with her, which would be a very important part of the case, right? Let's talk about it. April the 1st, 2022, the police located Ella's Audi in St. Joseph, Missouri. Same place where Brandon was arrested. Vehicle was impounded for forensic study. Of course, it should be for evidence, right? Check this out. Brandon was never charged in anything related to this case, but he received a 30-year sentence in prison due to his own pending charges unrelated to Ella's case. And the police are not releasing any further information. I hate when they do that. But then again, it's okay because I exist. It makes me love the reason why I exist. So, they claim to have another person in question that led them to judge Ella's case as a homicide. But they haven't found Ella's body. How can you judge something, rule something as a homicide? That was the ruling on Ella's case. It was a homicide. You can't rule a homicide unless you have a body. They don't have no body. But being that Brandon was the last person seen with her, but they didn't charge him with anything related to Ella's case. It's this other person that law enforcement was saying that's in question, that they're not telling the family, they're not telling the media nothing about this other person they have in question. Why are you hiding that? Why would you hide important information like that, especially to hide the information that made you rule this case a homicide? Now you have Ella's family believing, because you know their family believes that there's hope that she's still alive. I would believe that too. But if you told me that my daughter or my cousin or my sister or my mother's case was ruled a homicide and y'all haven't even found her body, you know what you just did? You told us. Yes, deception. That is deception. I'm not even going to say it's a lie because it may not be true. It may be true and it may not be true. So when you don't know whether something is true or not, we call that deception. And still to this day, Ella's missing. That makes me angry. So I turn my anger into a spiritual art and craft that works. So I got both my candles lit. Well, this candle, I told y'all in my last reading, I'm waiting on my candle to come. However, I am fully covered. Okay? Know this. I am fully covered and anointed for what it is that I do. Whether this candle of protection is lit or not, I am protected from all angles in what it is that I'm doing. Okay? I got my zodiac candle lit. Tap me into the etheric realm of energies. Okay? Because my intention is to make contact with Ella, Kiana, Goodie. I had to look up her whole name. All this time I spent in her energy, some words slip from me every now and then. Ella, Kiana, Goodie, because I'm about to get lost in the spirit and watch how these cards expose every reason why I'm angry, every reason why her family's angry. But we got you, Ella, and I'm going to help them. So I pulled her birth chart, right? She was born September the 4th, 1989. Okay? That day the sun was in Virgo, so Ella was a Virgo, and her moon was in Libra. So y'all know how I divide time. Time is the sun divided by moon cycle. So when I put the moon in Libra inside of Virgo's house, which is the 6th house, when Libra is in the 6th house, Taurus is rising. This is Ella's chart of energy. The 2nd house chart is about money and material resources. Okay? Now, the day Ella went missing was March 9th, 2022. On that day, the sun was in Pisces and the moon was in Gemini. And y'all know how I divide time. Time is the sun divided by moon cycle. So when the moon in Gemini is put inside a Pisces house, which is the 12th house, Cancer is rising, which is the home and family. Okay? So let's talk about it. Okay? Now, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you'll be notified when I drop these investigations. Also, in the link below in the description is a tutorial video where you're able to go there and click on any sign, symbol, house number, or planet that you will hear me talk about in any of my charts or pull in any of my cards. So you will see for yourself how I formulate the story, especially when I'm pulling from Ella's energy. You can see her raw and uncut talk through the cards. So, with that being said, I took some notes because I automatically seen some synchronicities in the planetary alignments and energies and the signs. And I'm going to talk about what I seen as far as the charts go. And then I'm going to pull cards with Ella's energy. Okay? But first, let's talk about these charts. Okay? Now, on March 9th, 2022, right? If you look in Ella's birth chart, okay, you will see Gemini. The moon was in Gemini March 9th, 2022. So we're going to follow where that moon was in Gemini in her birth chart. Okay? Because that was Ella's time to make money. Because Gemini is in the house of money. And this is a money chart, the 2nd house. Gemini is in the 2nd house. So the moon was in the element of Ella's energy where she was up and ready to make that money all throughout this moon cycle. She was in her energy, her money making energy, her earning capacity energy. Okay, now let's find out where this went. Mercury rules Gemini. Okay, and Mercury on that day, March 9th, 2022, was in Aquarius when she left. Stay with me. There's a reason why you see that PM next to Pisces energy where you see Mercury at. because it went into Pisces in the PM, and we're going to talk about what that reveals. Okay? But in the meantime, it's in Aquarius, which is the group of individuals. Okay? Now, Aquarius, when it comes to making money traveling, because Gemini is the energy of travel. Okay? Aquarius is the energy of the community. It's the energy of groups, gangs, organizations, affiliations, all of that. Okay? So, and Aquarius is the energy of friendship as well. All right? So, Aquarius was in the 10th house. Okay? Now, Mercury, which rules Gemini, is in Aquarius in the 10th house. That represents financial success and freedom, because Aquarius represents freedom. Okay? Now, Uranus rules Aquarius, and Uranus is in Taurus. And Taurus comes first. Taurus is rising. So the energy of that day, as well as the way Ella's energy was already set up at birth, that was the day of financial freedom. The stars were aligned that day for her to make as much money as she can. And the opportunities were coming. The reason why we need discernment in life is because opportunity is opportunity. It is a respecter of no man. Energy is energy. The stars are the stars. The planets are the planets. They do what they do. They are a respecter of no man. So when it comes time for your season or your cycle, where certain planetary energies are available for you to make certain moves, you have to make these moves with wisdom, because wisdom has to come from you. You have to pay attention. The planets are going to do what the planets do. You have to have wisdom to know how to move. So the reason why I say that is because she was traveling a long way. She was going to be in the presence of this stranger, or they built a rapport, but you still don't know people like you think you do, even when they're family. But this person's not even family. Okay? So, Mercury in Ella's chart was in Libra, relationships and partnerships. And Ella's Libra energy, which is where she developed most of her relationships with and encounters and associates, was at work, because Libra is in Ella's 6th house of work. That is where she will meet most of her relationship and partners. That is where she will partner up with people at. And the partnership can go either way. So when it comes to work, that's where she will encounter her enemy and her partner, her friend. Because once again, Libra energy is a respecter of no man. It's all about partnership. That don't mean it's a good partnership. Even your enemy, you have a partnership with your enemy. So, Venus rules Libra, and Venus was in Aquarius, the friend that was traveling that day with Ella while she was the worker, right? Now, mind you, this was off the books. Stay with me. So, when Mercury is in Libra during a moon in Gemini, which rules Mercury, that means that Ella developed a relationship more than the part of her that was helping this man get to Texas. During that ride, there were conversations that was had. There were things that was said. Okay? Exchanges of energies that brought them closer during the ride. Because remember, Venus is also in Ella's Libra as well, while Venus was in Aquarius that day, which represents the stranger, the friend that was along the ride in the back. I'm quite sure he made his way up to the front. Now check this out. The work trip turns into romance for extra money. How do I know that? because Ella's Virgo. She's a Virgo. That's the energy of work. She's a worker by nature, but she's also a worker in Leo's house, which is the fifth house. Ella's Virgo is in the fifth house. And that is the person that works hard and plays hard. Plus, the Libra in the sixth house means that she wasn't beyond doing fun things extra for money. She wasn't beyond the play. Okay, you want to play? Let's play. You know, he came on to her. She liked it. And even if she didn't like it, she played along because she was too far away from home to not shift the energy in any other direction. The thing was, she didn't know who she was playing along with. Stay with me. The partner, Brandon. Brandon, the partner, controlled the travels. Look in the seventh house of the partner. You'll see Scorpio, the energy of power and control. Ella, by nature, attracts people who seem to be very controlling, very sexual, and very controlling and obsessive. And I'm looking at all of this information in her birth chart. We haven't even got to the chart of the day she went missing. What I'm speaking from is how the planets were aligned the day she went missing. I'm speaking through those planets in her birth chart. But watch when I get over to the death to the missing chart. Not the death chart, the missing chart. Some charts I have to label them death charts because we know that the person is dead and the investigation involves us finding out who did it. So excuse me for getting those mixed up, missing and dead. We don't know if she's dead yet. So I'm going to continue to say missing. Now, how I know he was controlling the ride is because that is the type of partner that she was in contact with that day. And that partner she came in contact with during her work. And why was he controlling the travel? Because if you look inside of Scorpio's house, you will see Sagittarius. That is the long journey that they was on. That is the journey. Sagittarius is the energy of journeys. That is the journey. Okay? And this long road trip in Sagittarius's house, you'll see Capricorn. And Brandon just might be a Capricorn. He just might be a Capricorn. The reason why I looked inside of Capricorn's house is because Mercury was in Aquarius. Mercury was in Aquarius in Capricorn's house, which is the 10th house. That is the energy of financial success and freedom. So they both were experiencing that energy that day, Ella and Brandon. The difference is Ella was trying to be successful to take care of her family. But Brandon was trying to be successful to be free from his charges. And those conversations came up in the vehicle. Those were the sensitive conversations that they began to have as Mercury, remember I said that PM with Pisces energy, Mercury was moving into Pisces during that time when they was having those conversations. Once Mercury entered Pisces energy, that is when Brandon's true colors came out. And that night is when Ella realized who she had in her vehicle. By then it was too late. The conversation exposed sensitive information that he was basically on the run to avoid the government. And these conversations were sensitive because Ella's Cancer, which is the most sensitive energy, is in the house of communication and travel. So what they was talking about was very sensitive information. He was comfortable. He became comfortable with Ella. Ella made him comfortable. She makes everybody comfortable when it comes to communication because she's the type of person where you can talk to her. You can talk to her as if she was your family member. Now, somewhere along that sensitive conversations, things went left. And things went left was because other people was picked up that Brandon knew. Other parties on board who know Brandon. And these other parties led to a closer relationship where it became sexual. The sexual encounters were involved and it killed her and stole her vehicle. Now, the reason why I said that it killed her and they stole her vehicle, and I also see sexual assault, was because if you look at Sagittarius during this long journey, you will see it in the 8th house of death. That is the house of death. Now, if you go over to the day that Ella went missing, March 9th, look where Aquarius is at. In the house of death. Okay? Whatever happened to Ella, it happened that night. It happened the night of March 9th. She was not in that vehicle after the 9th. When they saw that vehicle on surveillance, thinking that it was Ella coming back, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. That was Brandon in that vehicle, and all the windows were tinted so they couldn't see it. But I can see it right here in the energies. That wasn't Ella in that vehicle. Whatever Brandon and that crowd did, because that crowd was also in the vehicle, they all did it to Ella. And I see sexual abuse. I see sexual abuse. More than one individual. I'm just talking about what I see. I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm telling you what I see. And if you've been watching my investigations, you know I have a very good connection to the etheric realm. And on that day, if you look, the day that Ella went missing, if you look in the first house, you'll see Cancer energy. That's the conversation. That's the sensitive information that's coming first. Being that Ella, now she's been exposed to sensitive information and she realized she's in the presence of criminals. Oh, they got to do something. Because it's either them or her. And plus that, on top of sex, because at one point, I do believe Ella was willing to have fun. Because they did have fun, sexual fun. Because look in the 5th house of fun, you'll see Scorpio, the energy of death and sex. And in the house of death and sex, which is Scorpio's house, the 8th house, you'll see the group. You'll see the gang. You'll see the individuals. On that day, Mars was in Aquarius. Mars was in the energy of the individual, the gang, the freedom, the ones who want to be free. They were going to naturally challenge Ella because Ella's Mars is in Virgo. It is in her own nature. She would have been a natural challenge to them that day. And it was more of them than it was her. All right, Ella, talk to us Using this deck, she's going to pull a planet and she's going to tell it from her own energy. Make sure y'all like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you'll be notified when I drop these investigations. Jupiter in the 11th. That is Aquarius's house. And Jupiter is the planet that belongs to Sagittarius, which is in the house of death in Ella's birth chart. This is the planet that rules Sagittarius in the house of death in Ella's birth chart. Okay? So now, in the 11th house was that individual hiding, the hidden individual that was on the run. That's where it started. So, on the day that Ella went missing, Jupiter was in Pisces. Look at that. You see Jupiter in Pisces? Now look at Ella's birth chart. Look what's in the 11th house. Pisces. Y'all ready to hear from her? She's speaking from her own chart. I don't even have to pull another chart. She's speaking from her own chart. So now, let's begin to find Ella. Lost and found. We're going to get straight to finding Ella. Ella, where are you? Where's your body? We found her car. They found the car. Where's your body? Give us a clue for your loved ones who are watching or who will come in contact with my channel in some form or fashion through divine intervention. Because I will not force this reading upon anybody. I will let them discover me or request me. But just like these oracle cards come forth, my readings are like oracles. They will eventually reach somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows Ella's family. Ella and her family. So let us know, Ella, because we got your attention. Where's your body? In a building in the 5th house. In the building in the 5th house. Now the 5th house is where this sexual activity was going on at. See, in the missing chart, you see Scorpio there. Remember I was telling you that's how I knew they was having sex. It was like a gangbang. They raped her. They sexually assaulted her. They raped her in the 5th house. And how I know it was a group of them is because look in Scorpio's house, you'll see Aquarius. That's the group. And Mars was in Aquarius. And Mars rules Scorpio. Mars and Pluto rule Scorpio. And even if it wasn't all of them, Brandon himself raped her. And she's in a building. Now, this building, her body is in a building. All right, this is my Who deck. Although we know Brandon was the one that was last known with her, who else can we reach out to that will give us a clue to where you are located at, Ella? Who else? Victim in the 3rd house. That's the house of travel. There was a victim in the 3rd house. So she was the victim in the 3rd house. This is the house of travel. And this is exactly where Ella is. Look in the 3rd house the day she went missing. You'll see Ella. She's a Virgo. Okay? She is a Virgo. And she was the victim. I see more than one person though. Okay, give us some type of evidence that can help us locate this building. Because this building is where her body is. Look in the missing chart and you'll see Scorpio, death, sexual assault, all of that. Also, look in her birth chart and look in the fifth house. You'll see Ella, Virgo, in the fifth house. So yeah, she's in the building. And this is the same building that she was raped in. Raped, beat. Because Mars in Aquarius in the eighth house is very violent, rebellious, sexually rebellious too. And Venus was in Aquarius too. And Venus is the power of attraction, whether it's good or bad. Sexual attraction. You have people that are obsessed with you, that are so attracted to you that if they can't have you, they don't want nobody to have you. That's still a Venus effect. That's Venus mixed with Pluto. And Pluto was in Scorpio in Ella's chart, and Pluto was in Capricorn the day she went missing. And Capricorn is in the house of relationships. That's how I know Brandon just might be a Capricorn. Because all the Capricorn dots connect to where Brandon is supposed to be located at in her energy. So he just might be a Capricorn. All right, evidence. Look, the seventh house, firearm evidence and weapons. He may have shot her. Yep, he shot her.